Welcome to the Fairways and Day Trader Show. We're going through the NFL Mock Draft Simulator picks 11 through 21 tonight, and we've already went through 1 through 10. And just to kind of give a quick recap, we had the Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza, the Jets Sonny Styles, Cardinals David Bailey, Titans Arvell Reese, the Giants took Caleb Downs, Browns took Monroe Freeling. Commanders Jemiah Love, and Saints Jordan Tyson, Chiefs Francis Maui Noah, and the Giants went with Carnell Tate to round out the top 10. So as we move to picks 11, we have the Dolphins. And with the Dolphins, what they'll kind of be looking at um, is they've got a lot of holes. So there's a lot of positions they could go here. They'll be looking for tackle. They'll be looking for corner and edge and wide receiver, uh, and probably guard too as well. To be honest, but a few picks that probably would have been good for them would have been Maui Noah for tackle or even a guard spot potentially. Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver. But a few of the picks that I think they would be leaning towards would be Ruben Bain as being the best available edge and probably maybe even a defensive tackle in some fronts. Um, but Mansour Delane and Jamon McCoy, I still lean Mansour Delane over Jamon McCoy just because the injury history and he didn't play all of 2025. And I touched it on my first video that Mansour Delane's speed in his 40 kind of eased a lot of people's minds as far as whether he had the top end speed to really go up against those speedy top end wide receivers. So I think Fano is an option they could go, but when I really look down to it, I really think you kind of got to go with Mansard Delane here, and the reason for that is uh, they really need to look for somebody to take over that number one corner position. And when I look at it, it's either Bain or Delane because Makai Lemon, I just don't see anything dynamic to his game, and I feel like even though that he might be good in finding soft spots in the zone or on these quick short routes, I just don't see that as a big fit for what the Dolphins are going to be doing in this new offense right away. So it really for me, I think the pick here is Mansour Delane. Lock it in for the corner for LSU, and I think this is a great pick for them to kind of rebuild this franchise. There'll be some options in the late first round to go wide receiver. Maybe in the second round go guard. I really like as kind of a foreshadow Keelan Rutledge or Emmanuel Pregnon or Chase Basantis at guard. And there's a chance they can still get Max Ionich or even Blake Miller at the end of the first. So I think going corner here kind of serves them best bet for the players that's available. So next up is the Cowboys. All right, so the Dallas Cowboys should be looking defense and nothing else right here at number 12. And Bailey's gone. Obviously, Reese and Styles and Downs gone. Those were kind of the main plays. Delane even I think was in play here, uh, but this is probably I think I kind of touched on it earlier with the Bengals. Like, what was their best case scenario be? And there really wasn't going to be a whole lot of great options for them at 10, so that's why they kind of went after the Dexter Lawrence in a trade. So the way that I'm kind of seeing the Cowboys here, um, you almost got to take what's the best available. And on my board, Ruben Bain is ahead of Jamon McCoy. Now they are probably a little bit better set on the interior than they are on the back end and the secondary. But I feel like Jamon McCoy maybe he's just a little bit early. So maybe if you were going to do anything, it would be going with a safety, Dylan Thieneman. There's some Cowboy staff connections with Thieneman and the Cowboys. Um, Maybe even let's see if you look at corner and yeah, too early for these guys here. But Emmanuel McNeil Warren too is in play too as well. But when I look at it, I think this is just take the best player available. You can always go corner a little later in the back, or even go safety with Thieneman or McNeil Warren. So I'm going to lock in Ruben Bain here for the Cowboys. He's a player with really strong ability when he gets his hands on offensive linemen. And, as far as guys with short arms, I'm not worried when a guy's one of his main thing is power. Um, when a guy's basically a speed rusher and he has short arms, that's kind of a problem. But when it's more of a power engaged guy, I'm not as much concerned. And I think his short area quickness, along with that power, will help him get into a face of a lot of offensive tackles and guards in this league. So this brings in the Rams. The Rams added McDuffie from the Chiefs in the secondary. So for me, I think that kind of takes corner out here. Um, so when you're kind of looking at things, they could go Makai Lemon, maybe even Fano or Proctor, potentially. Kenyon Sadiq, while I think he would be a weapon for Sean McVay to use, they've kind of got a three-headed tight end group that's pretty solid. So I feel like that would be more of a luxury pick than anything. Um, but there's three wide receivers really with Lemon, Cooper, and KC Concepcion that I think they would really like. I feel Lemon is maybe just a little too much like Puka Nakua, so I'm not really sure they would really go that direction. So the way that I kind of see this going down is when you really get down into the weeds here of the Rams, what do they really need? And I think that is a tackle spot. And when I look at tackle, I, I just don't know if Fanu can really play tackle. I think he's better served as guard. But I'm really looking at a guy like Caden Proctor here potentially for the Rams. Um, at number 13. And if it's not Proctor, for me, it's probably Concepcion or Cooper. And I think maybe Omar Cooper might actually be the better play here than Concepcion, even though that I like Concepcion more on my board. So it's kind of a almost I would say like a 50-50 pick here. I think for sure, no matter what, it's lineman or wide receiver. Um, and I think based off of my thoughts on the Rams, I'm going to lock in Omar Cooper here to the Rams at 13 and give McVay another option to go with Puka Nakua. All right, so the Ravens. Ravens, they're the dirty birds that turned down the Max Crosby trade, which I believe was an absolute total crock. I don't believe for 1 second that they failed him on a physical. I believe they failed him because they realized all the holes that they had after free agency and realized that they really couldn't get up a number one pick. And I think that's pretty shitty of an organization to do. But hey, it's the Ravens have had a history of doing that in the past, and here we are again. So uh, for me, could they go wide receiver? Absolutely. Could they go with an edge rusher? Yes, they could. But when I'm really looking at everything, I think they've got to go offensive line. And on my board, the best offensive lineman yet is Vegaone from Penn State. And this pick here will really hammer in what they want to do. They want to run the ball. They want to be physical. He's the best all-around guard in this class, and that includes the guys that may be moving into tackle, from tackle to guard. So I'm going to lock him in there. And with the Ravens, they're going to play a little smash mouth football. All right, so next up is the Bucks. The Bucks, I think we're also kind of looking at the interior offensive line, edge, corner, tight end, to hopefully try and help fill that void that's going to be left from Mike Evans. And a little early for Akeem Mesidor. and Kevin Falk, this would be I think that if Ruben Bain ever fell, you know, in this draft, I think 15 is his floor. Because when I look at it, I think he would not last past the Buccaneers and what they need. And there might even, if uh, he slips past the Cowboys, you could see a potential trade up by another team to hop up in front of the Bucks that maybe really like Ruben Bain and what he does. But with the Bucks, I think the lean here has to be corner, edge, or tight end. They really need to do some things. And when I look at defense, um, Keldrick Falk is the highest upside. Um, him and Malachi Lawrence are the two highest upside edge guys in this class. I think Akeem Mesidor will just be a guy that's, maybe a 6 to 7 sack a year guy, probably most of his career. I just don't really see a lot of upside to his game. But Keldrick Falk could be an 8 to 12 sack guy, and I feel the same way about Malachi Lawrence. Um, and honestly, if it was me, I honestly think that Malachi Lawrence has more projected potential than what Keldrick Falk does in this class. I just think Lawrence needs just a little bit better coaching, and I think with the Buccaneers staff that would be a good fit for him. So I am going to go um, and try and help fix this defense. And when I look at this defense, I think it's uh, McCoy, Falk, or Lawrence. Even though it'd be really early and a lot of boards for Lawrence, and I'm going to actually lock in Gerald McCoy and take the best player on the board here. So this now brings back to the Jets. The Jets have their now second pick in this first round. And honestly, I think this is a really good board for them right now. And the reason for that is you got Sonny Styles, and in all likelihood, everybody else is saying Bailey or Reese is there, but pretty much no matter what, it's going to be an athletic linebacker or a really good pass rusher goes to the Jets first. And while I think they need a more wide receiver help, um, I think the play is to stick with defense. I really do. And they just unloaded uh, Minka Fitzpatrick, and I think filling that void with the best player available right now would be where I would go. And I think the Jets would almost run to the podium um, for Dylan Thiedemann here. So that's what we're going to lock it down on this mock. And the Lions. So Lions' main needs are offensive tackle, um, an edge player, and probably a corner would be the three picks that I really wouldn't see him going any further. I think Monroe Frilling would be their number one hope, but I think the number two hope would be Caden Proctor. While Blake Miller's good, he's more of a right tackle, and that's kind of where uh, Penei Sewell's kind of sticks at. Same with Max Ionachor. So I'm going to go ahead and take the easy road here and uh, go with an offensive tackle, and Caden Proctor comes off the boards to the Lions. That brings us to the Vikings. And the Vikings, I think everybody and their brother has been mocking Dylan Thiedemann to them at safety. Obviously, they have a need for safety because Harrison Smith just retired. And even though Thieneman just went off the board, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they would just pivot straight to McNeil Warren. He is a player for me that has a lot of upside. I think he can, grow a little bit too. While I did see some ball hawking nature to his game, he still missed some in my opinion, kind of easier balls he could have batted down, and he was just late reacting. While his athletic ability almost made up for it, If he's a little slow at Toledo at times, I think he's going to be a little slow in the NFL to start. But I still think he's a really good player. I think I've got him at around like 28 to 30 on my big board. So in this draft, there's going to be a lot of varying opinions. I brought that up in my first video, but I really think McNeil Warren here at 18 would be a potential play if Thieneman went off the board. Uh, when I look at some of these other players, Spencer Fano's in play, McCoy's gone, Delane's gone, Freeling's gone. Caden McDonald could be potential, but is that really a play at 18? Can you fill, that nose tackle, defensive tackle role later on in the draft? I think you can. There's a couple options with Lee Hunter and Dominic Orange, Big Citrus, that would potentially be a good fit for Minnesota if they want to fill that position later. So for me, it really comes down to Spencer Fano and actually maybe Chris Johnson's in play here too. He's another player that I really like. I know they have him down here at like 42, but I've got him in the top half of the 28 to 30 range too, I believe, and I really like him too as well. But I think the play really needs to be Fano or uh, McNeil Warren here, and when I kind of look at it, I think I'm going to lean uh, going with Spencer Fano here and really locking in uh, a a player that can play guard or tackle. There's even some thought that he might play center, but kind of in a little unorthodox pick here, maybe with Fano. But I like it for the Vikings. Solidify that offensive line, really help Kyler Murray and maybe J.J. McCarthy have one of those guys grow in this offense. Panthers are next up on the board. They would have loved, I think, to have Fano, but um, Blake Miller's an option. Max Ionachor is an option. Kenyon Sadiq is an absolute option. Um, even Denzel Boston and KC Concepcion. And don't forget, I mean, we've got a little bit of a slide happening right now with Makai Lemon. And like I said, I'm kind of torn on Makai Lemon. I don't really see the overall, him being just a great wide receiver and anything dynamic, but it's a complete possibility that he continues to fall a little bit. And is there maybe a little bit of love for him because you got, I think they got Coker on the outside, they got um, Leggett on the outside, and they got their last year's first round pick, who played really great last year. Um, and do they go slot now this year? I mean, that's a total option too as well. So is Kenyon Sadiq. Um, but with Bryce Young, I think you have to do the best to protect him. And when I look at, whether it's, a slot wide receiver or a guy that'll protect Bryce Young, I, while I have liked Taylor Moton, he's just an okay player. And I think for them they really need to solidify this right side. So I'm actually going to lean into Blake Miller here, and help Bryce Young get that protection and see if we can get wide receiver a little later, since we already have three wide receiver options that are okay right now with Bryce Young. So that brings us to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys in their first pick got Reuben Bain, so they solidified some pass rushing and power prowess. Um, and now I think for the most part they're going to be looking at you can kind of take Keldrick Falk out. Thieneman's gone. Colton Hood is probably the best DB along with Chris Johnson, although I have them ranked pretty similarly on my big board. I think there's only two or three slots, I think, away from those two guys. McNeil Warren is absolutely in play, but I think it's got to be corner or safety here. And for me, my highest graded player out of those three is McNeil Warren. So when I look at it, I think safety is the play here. And we're gonna lock in McNeil Warren, and you got two absolute dogs with some athletic ability and some power too, with Ruben Bain and McNeil Warren. So I love how this is shaking out for the Cowboys so far. And the last pick of this second video here with the 21st pick is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they need offensive line help big time. And I think they would have absolutely love Agaone right here with this pick that the Ravens took, and probably even Spencer Fano or Caden Proctor. But obviously, all of those players are gone. Max Ionachor is potentially an option too as well, and that's probably about as early as I think Ionachor would go. Um, could they maybe like Lomu here? They've got plenty of tight ends, so they're not going to be looking at Sadiq. Keldrick Falk is a player that I don't think they really are going to be looking for edge right away. Um, so when I really look at the players available, we're still too early for Ty Simpson. Um, and I think the play here is you got DK on the outside. Pittman can kind of play almost a slot and an outside role. And I think Makai Lemon is an absolute player that the Pittsburgh Steelers would love. He's tough, he's gritty, he'll block, he'll go over the middle. Makai Lemon is a guy that I think that the Steelers would jump all over if he fell over to 21. And like I said, the way that the board fell, I mean, the only other couple of players I think they could even go would be Lomu or Concepcion. Um, and like I said, this would probably be the earliest for Max Ionachor. But when I look down to it, I think you gotta go Makai Lemon here and give, if it's Aaron Rodgers, give him a chance to kind of have three wide receivers, some good tight ends, and kind of see what happens to run it back. If it's not and it's Will Howard, well then you're developing Will Howard and Makai Lemon together. And I think that would be a really good fit as a safety blanket in the slot for Will Howard. So that's going to kind of lock us in and finish this second video. We'll finish 22-32 with the Chargers leading us off at the end, or with the beginning of these last set of picks. Um, Kind of the notable players that we're we have some great value on. Kenyon Sadiq, I have him about right here in my big board. Lomu maybe just a little lower. Casey Concepcion, I believe, is a top 15 or 16 ranked player in mine, just because of he's an absolute separator at the wide receiver position and can do some nasty things with it after he catches it, and then his special teams work. Kick returner, punt returner, that boy is, like I mentioned earlier, he is going to be a problem. And another player that I love is Max Ionachor here at offensive tackle. So he's a guy that I think you can maybe, even if you could maybe almost redshirt him for that first year in the NFL and sit behind somebody, which is so hard to do with a non QB position in the first round pick. But I believe maybe even the Eagles, with Lane Johnson coming down in probably his last season, do they take Max Ionachor and try to grow him into his spot? And I feel like he would just be nasty for the Eagles um, at that right tackle position. Super athletic, lots of power, a full year to learn with their coaching staff and the current people on the offensive line. That would be a great pick too as well. So I'll be back before Thursday and do another video to finish out this first round, and then I'll drop my top 100 uh, and talk about my top 100 draft board uh, the day before the draft or the day of the draft, and we'll rock and roll and have a good one. So thanks for watching. Please like or subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your day.